Denis Brodsky, Chief People Officer of TBI Bank. Denis, what are your conclusions?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me for the event. And in fact, just this morning, I received a number of calls and messages from my colleagues saying, well, Denis, the topic is very hot with all the recent legislation adoptions here in Bulgaria. This became very, very hot and crucial topic. And to some extent, I kind of disagreed with my colleagues because it actually started almost a year ago. And many companies have transitioned to the new ways of working, with many people working from elsewhere. And we've all experienced this phenomena, and we were starting to rethink how our companies work and what we do with our people, how we reshape our businesses. And many companies have experienced that it's longer than we expected, and that this is something happening for the longer term. And what's happened today and what will happen in the future will only determine the speed and the magnitude of the change we already experienced. So today, I would like to share with you my thoughts about how this new challenge of the COVID pandemic actually affects the leadership thinking, the leadership mentality, and what is happening with the management role in a management world around this very, very dramatic for all of us situation. But in order to understand this challenge, I'll invite you to the historical perspective of how humanity lived and how the leadership evolved over the years. So imagine human world 6,000 years ago, an advent of humanity, when the people lived in a small tribes led by the tribal leaders. So that was the world when the leadership was not given. It was owned, it was inherited, not inherited, it was given and offered to someone on merit. And the primal leadership was built about the psychological contract between the tribe and the leader. The contract largely based on the mutual trust and even more on the great expectation from leadership, because the leadership at that time was a duty, an obligation towards the tribe. And humanity strived in this leadership model. In fact, we became the dominant species of the planet, but to a large extent, because of our ability to work together collectively under the leadership of someone and to strive in the very challenging environment. But unfortunately, over generations and thousands of years, with the agricultural revolution, with the advent of first technologies, and with the more abundant resources, the leadership model has shifted from this trust and connection environment to the more different model of the leadership, which I can only describe as a leadership model of command and control. When the leadership lost their link, their contact with the tribe, with the people they follow them, and it all became more of the power games and more of the world when the leadership was seen as a privilege, inherited, given to someone by just the rule of birth, not because of their merits. And the leadership became a model when you had a privilege to rule over others. And if there are anything that I would say was the fundamental change at that moment was the book of Niccolo Machiavelli, The Prince, which is in fact legitimized the new management era of command and control, divide and rule, intrigue and power games. And we lived in this mentality for 500 years. It was so much embedded in the nature of human beings. And only at the beginning of the second half of this last century, after the baby boom, after the great shift in the Western world toward the self-realization, toward the great understanding of human beings, the model has slightly started to shift towards its origins, back to the primal leadership. And what we experienced over the last probably 20 to 30 years was the massive shift in the leadership mentality. back from command and control to connect, empower, and trust environment. And of course, this was surrounded by the very solid scientific research in sociology, neuroscience, biology, many things that has proven that a different model of leadership built on trust, built of responsibility of the leader toward the teams, provide much greater chances to achieve great results in the long terms. And of course, this new thinking has been fooled with the new books and the new knowledge that has been brought to the management world. And I hope that you know the names of these books, and the names there are like self-explaining: the primal leadership, or the servant leadership model, or the latest books of the Simon Sinek or Stephen Covey, which was all massively built around the trust and responsibility of the leader. So that's how the leadership world evolved. So in the Western world, you see a lot of companies that change their leadership style, they change their attitude, change the way they treat people in the organization. And unfortunately, we are living in a slightly different world. And I'm by my origin also from Ukraine, and I also experienced this. I've seen it all over and around, because for many years of the not very greatest times in our histories, we were still in this world of command and control mentality. And we had no time to adapt and to change that our colleagues in Western companies have had. Many of you probably have experienced this yourself, because you also worked in the international companies, in the local companies, or you have had an employees working in a boss environment, and you've heard this, cultural clashes and what the people experience from the two management worlds. So the Western world was rapidly transitioning to the from the command and control to the empower and trust management universe. And what's happened recently, and by the way, in my slide, BC means before COVID. What's happened recently in the time we live now, which we call TBI during COVID, that what exactly happened with the people. With the massive exodus of our people from work from the office to work from home, they felt it like a prison break. People felt that they escaped this corporate environment of the offices with the prescribed routine, with managers wandering around, looking over their shoulders, using this and overusing this proximity of the control of being able to be connected to your people and see what they do immediately. And the people got home. We were sending hundreds of people every day to work from home, and we were learning the new environment. And for us manager, it wasn't that pleasant journey. Us as a managers, we see it as our paradise lost. All the things that we used to work with, the practice we used before, gone, disappeared. We've been demoralized as the managers, and I had a lot of talks with my colleagues in the company and with my friends outside the work, and the other leaders from different industries. They all were saying the same: we are losing our ground. Some of them were even afraid to let the people to work from home, because they were saying like, oh hell, I don't know what they're gonna do if they sit here home. Will they work at all? I have no control. I don't understand what's going on. So that's how it's all started. And then we started to learn both sides how to live in this environment. And with time, for our employees, the best way to describe it, what's happened, I would describe it as the love and hate relationships. There are a number of researches about how people feel working remotely. And from one extent, people really hate it. They work long hours. The border between life and work blurred. They felt fatigue of the meetings. They really felt bad. It's really difficult to manage your kids, your spouse, your personal life, and cope with your work. But from the other hand, they felt that the companies do care for them. And by they were meaning that our HR team, our leadership team, we see how they started to pay attention to our well-being, how they started to take care of us, how they provided with all these protective tools, and how they disinfect offices, and how they start express more care for us. And secondly, what we've noted, that this challenging environment we are all living is very rewarding. Each and every research on this topic has had the question, would you consider returning to work from offices? And vast majority of people were saying, hell no, I'm not returning to my corporate cage, to my cell. I want to work from home no matter how difficult it was. And one of the things that can explain this phenomena is our understanding of the time. The people experience freedom or retrieval as their control of time. So these people are suddenly felt that they're in control of time. They decide how to work, when to work, what to do. And we as managers at TBI, for example, we were seeing our people starting their work at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning, probably after they walk out their pets and have a couple of hours before the family wakes up and gather together. And they were disappearing for a couple of hours, and they were back to emails, to meetings, to projects, and they were disappearing back, probably helping their kids with the schoolwork. And they were back at 10 p.m., at 11 p.m., when probably their families just settled down and they had a couple of hours to attend their work and do the best thing they can do. So they've got back control of their life, literally. And what people starting to demonstrate that they expect from their leaders, from their day-to-day managers, more trust and empowerment. And they like this. And if you look at it from the management perspective, the way I would describe it was like shake of the basic instinct, urge of the basic instinct. Yes, from one hand, what we all the leaders experience, that the greater loyalties from our team. Of course, with the economical uncertainty, with unemployment rising, we naturally see that people have great appreciation for the work they do. Well, to some extent, work was the best entertainment they could have. My people, really my team, were saying like, yeah, keep us busy, give us some work to do. I was in quarantine for 2 weeks and I was blessed to have work. So my colleagues, my work routine kept me busy and sane because I was staying for 2 weeks in one room without seeing anybody. My only window to the world was my work, and I loved it. So we experienced greater productivity. We immediately saw this effect, more empower and trust gave them more productivity. At TBI, we were launching things in a matter of days where before we were spending months on getting things done. And the quality was phenomenal. You know, the level of engagement from people we felt was phenomenal. But yet we felt this urge for control because it's a management instinct, the basic instinct. When situation is unpredictable, when we face something new, when we face something unknown, we reach out our hand, we grasp what is there, and we try to control it. And in many companies, it can end up with even like employing the new like surveillance tools that they can monitor what the people do at homes. So what has started is the companies have divided in two big groups. One group of the companies who managed to learn how to adapt the new normal and how to live with this when the productivity continue rising. And there are a number of researching demonstrating like massive productivity rises in the call center jobs, massive productivity rises in the creative jobs when people work from elsewhere. Right? And they learn how to do it and they live with this. And the other companies who were trying to just get back to old times and substitute this proximity of control with the new tools and technologies. And not surprisingly, the productivity in these companies went down because of these conflicting interests. People demanding more trust and more empowerment, and management not prepared to give more trust. Management leaning more towards back old school command and control. So whatever this time brings to us is exactly this leadership challenge, how we can capitalize on trust. And in order to remember this, so first thing you need to do to make sure that your managers, your leadership team understand the challenge, that the management shift is required from command and control to empower and trust, because otherwise it's a deep conflict between what your people want and what they can do and what you are prepared to give to them. And please bear in mind that we still have these inherited roots of the command and control more than in any Western companies they have. So what we need to do as an HR leaders, we need to help our people and our leadership and our managers to adapt to the new normal. COVID will be here for a long time. And even if it's gone, your people will not return to work from offices. They will want to return from elsewhere. So what you need to do, you need to teach your managers, to train them not to trust their old instinct. You literally need to tell them, if you feel that that's something you need to do because this is the way you used to do it before, do something differently because this is going to be better. You need to offer your managers new tools and technologies. No wonder why companies like Zoom, Slack, Microsoft Teams thrive at these days, because the demand is huge for new technologies and tools. You cannot leave your managers with the old school tools to do the new things. And you need to reset your drills and routines. At TBI, over summertime, we've launched a massive management development program. We had like 3 workshops with every manager who has even one report, helping them to understand how the new normal requires them to change their attitude to their team, and what are the tools they need to use, what are the new practices they need to build in to ensure that the people stay connected, stay engaged, stay productive. And again, it's not something new. The work from elsewhere, remote work, was here for 50 years. And there are like tons of books and researches of that and tools available. For example, there is fantastic Bulgarian guy, Petar Ivanov, who works in this field for 30 years, who teaches companies how to work with remote teams for many years. He has books, he has seminars, trainings, so go check out these guys. There are answers. You just need, as an HR professional, to acknowledge the world is changing and to help your managers to get change. Because one of the speakers here said, this will stay forever. This is here. We need to evolve. Otherwise, we will die. So my message to you is acknowledge the change. Work with your managers. Work with your leadership. Make sure that you capitalize on trust rather than command and control. And your people will flourish, and your business will flourish. Good luck. Thank you.